Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome into UnAnchored Boston. And as always, our show is brought to you by Cold Springs RV, your destination for all things camping. And where? We're in New Hampshire, of course. And the great George Gray at George Gray's Lexington Toyota. George Gray is the big wheel. He's at 409 Lexington, Mass Ave in Lexington. Speaking of big wheels, we got one today, and he is going to deliver for us. He can feel it. And Lobel's always in charge of the intros. So, Matthew, I'm going to step aside and let him do all the glorious intros that he has worked up for you.
Well, despite being a great athlete as a Bavarian and in Boston College and then in the National Football League, considering all the injuries you've had, we just talked about this, Matt. I was going to ask you, and I will later on, who is the best athlete in your family, but I'll get back to that in just a minute. Probably going to say your mom, but I would simply say, how is it possible you've only had one surgery in your life, considering all the time you spent under center and all the things that you went through in the NFL? How's that? I mean, I don't think people realize all the injuries you had toward the end of your career.
Yeah, well, the grace of God. But I will say this. I've been told to have surgery many times. I've had many doctors tell me to have surgery. I just always, I think my career in the NFL, I started as a backup. In my first 3 years, I was backing up Brett Favre in Green Bay. And I would see all these guys have surgery. And then I'd watch them the next year, and they'd usually have surgery on the same thing the next year, or they wouldn't be all the way back. And I would see how hard they would rehab from the surgery. And a lot of times I would sit there and I would say, man, if I just did that rehab like you're doing, I would never get hurt again with that injury again. So I don't know. The one surgery that I did have, I'll tell you this, though. I didn't even plan to have it. I flew to Alabama. Dr. James Andrews was down there, and I just went down for a second opinion. It was just like, I was just going to check it off. Like, yeah, I got a second opinion. And some way, somehow, Drew Brees had talked me into getting the surgery. He had just had the same surgery, even worse, on his throwing shoulder. And I was just doing it on my left shoulder. And I don't know, he like talked me into it. So even the one surgery that I had, I would kind of tell you, like, I'm not even sure I needed to have that surgery. I'm glad I had it, but I'm not sure I needed it.
Yeah, you just want to get wheeled down with the bright lights going on, a nice stainless steel table, and see everybody and just see what everyone else doing. I must have given it a shot, right?
You know what? There's so much that goes into NFL player injuries and surgeries and timing up a surgery. For me, I was going to be a free agent the next year. And it was like I could get the surgery that season. I think we were out of the playoffs. And the next year I was sort of like, hey, I plan to be in the playoffs. I plan to have a late run. I plan to be a free agent. And so do I want to be doing my rehab on a short off season with sort of a pending free agency, like leverage type thing? Or do I just want to go ahead and do it now? And really that's what Drew Brees brought up to me. And it was something like wasn't even anywhere in my brain at the time. And he brought it up and I was like, he actually brought it up over like probably had half a bottle of wine in me at that point. And I was like, wow, these are great points. Let's do surgery. So live and learn.
Who would have thought? I mean, you play in high school at Bavarian, have a great career there for a great program. You're hoping you get drafted. Pretty much like Tom Brady. You were number 187. He was 199, sixth round. And you're hoping to hang on I'm sure your first couple of years that backing up in Green Bay, you were just holding your breath to hang on. When it's all said and done, 18 years. I don't know how many players can hang their head on that. 18 years. Can you believe it?
No, I can't believe it. And actually, I think I retired like the day after Charles Woodson and Peyton Manning retired in my draft class. But I remember Peyton was pick 1. Charles Woodson went Peyton Manning, Ryan Leaf, I think third or fourth was Charles Woodson. And then I'm down there at 187. But I think much like Brady, he still remembers that he was picked 199, has pride in it, but also has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder about it. I think I would say the same thing about myself. And I don't know so much that it was like a chip on my shoulder as much as it was like, I remember where I came from. My first year in the NFL, pretty much the whole season. Andy Reid was the quarterback's coach for the Green Bay Packers. Pretty much the whole season, I played scout team tight end at practice going up, I'd have like Reggie White in like a 9 technique or a 7 technique. And Andy Reid was like, listen, you can come to quarterback meetings, but you got to make yourself useful at practice. Can you play tight end? And I was like super skinny, not super athletic. And I was like, yeah, my dad was a tight end. I can play tight end. Like I can get into a good 3-point stance. Like I played tight end in Pop Warner for the Norfolk Medfield Millis Vikings. Like I can do this. And really that's what it was. It was just like sort of surviving, sticking around for the opportunity for that. Hopefully an opportunity would come. And the next year it did come. And the rest is history. But I don't think I ever really forgot that. I don't think I ever really forgot like how it began for me.
Well, were you frozen? You might be frozen. So let me ask you this. There's all kinds of noise now. You're coaching now. You're coaching your son Henry down at Xaverian. We got there's a quarterback situation going on here in New England. My mother, she's still like a mom. She goes, I feel so bad for that Mac. I said a rosary for him today. I hope he's going to be better next week. And I felt like telling Mom it ain't happening, but I didn't have the heart to tell her. But I see things week to week, Matthew, that I just can't believe. Throwing across your body, trying to throw across the field. He's lucky he didn't get picked up twice in Dallas in that game. And then they did the same thing the other night, and when they had to pull him out of the game.
Yeah, well, fixable mistakes, I would say. I think what I see out of Mac is a frustrated quarterback who tries to make plays off schedule. And I think there's a fine line for a young quarterback, really any quarterback, but especially a young cornerback, keeping your confidence when things are like kind of raining down on you, where you feel like no one's really believing in you anymore, keeping your confidence high and understanding who you are. Like you're not just terrible all of a sudden. But also I think for him specifically, understanding who you're not. Like if you go and watch all of his interceptions, or if you go watch his, scoop and score fumbles in the pocket, like know when to say when. Like you're not Lamar Jackson. You're not even, you're like in some ways less athletic than Tom Brady, I would say. But like that doesn't mean you can't be really successful. I still believe in Mac Jones. I think he can be a successful quarterback, but he's just got to clean up like the off schedule interceptions where he's trying to make something happen. I don't think that's his game. In fact, I know it's not his game, but I do believe that he could be a really good quarterback. I think he can be the starting quarterback for this team. He just has to, I think, just eliminate those big mistakes.
Yeah, he holds on to the ball far too long. That's obviously, I think, one big problem for him. What does he have to learn to not take so many sacks? Apparently, here we are. It's easy for me to say sitting on my couch, but it seems like he really goes down so early and so easily.
Yeah, for me, what I would want if I was him as a quarterback, I see him doing so much pre-snap before the ball's even snapped. I see him directing, sending a guy in motion. That's the mic. Oh, you got the strong safety. Now I'm going to re-mic. Now he does so much pre-snap. That's kind of exhausting. Like even the great quarterbacks that I played with, Brett Favre, Andrew Luck, like all the different guys, and like me included, like this, I firmly believe this. It's just nice to just go out and play. We're going to call play in the huddle. We don't give a rip what the defense is doing. I don't care. Line up over there, play man, play zone. I don't care. We're running our stuff, kind of like a John Wooden mentality. I don't care about you. We care about us. And then there's like the other thing that some offenses have, kind of like the Tom Landry thing. Like, okay, we're going to wait and see how you line up defensively. Then if you do this, we'll do that. If you do that, we'll do this. And like, I don't know, sometimes you feel like you're on defense as an offense. I always loved when we were on offense, feeling like we're on offense. Like we decide what we're going to do, not you. I don't care what you do. And especially when you're playing with people who disguise or who know your style. I just always felt like that was like the most freeing feeling as a quarterback, where you can just cut it loose, play aggressive, play with tempo, play clock's not at like 2 every time, we dictate it. And so I don't know, that's what I would want if I was him, to get out of the funk. But, I'm not sure they're going to change.
Is he playing the same offense that he played at Alabama? Is it close to it?
Well, I don't know that the talent level on the outside is the same. Like I called the Michigan Alabama bowl game his junior year. And I mean, every wide receiver, like the top 4 wide receivers, I think were first round picks.
Yeah.
So I mean, like it's a little bit rare. I mean, not to knock any of my Boston College teammates, but like when I got to the Packers in my first mini camp, I remember my first rep. We called this play 2 jet X dagger, Y shell across, fake 40. I drop back, 7-step drop. I throw the dagger. It's like an 18-yard in route. I throw it like way over the guy's head. I'm like, oh gosh, I threw it over his head. Receiver's running, hits him like kind of looks like it hits him in stride, catches it, goes for like another 5 yards. It's like a 20-something yard gain. Everyone's like, oh, great job. I was like, I just thought I overthrew him. I'm like playing with like amazing, amazing players right now. I think Mag did sort of the opposite. He was playing with the best of the best at the wide receiver group. And now he's playing with guys that are good. It's like, not that they're not good. They're good, but they're not at the level of guys that he was playing with at Alabama. I don't think. I mean, that's just sort of a guess. That's kind of how I feel based on my experience doing it sort of the opposite way.
I ask every quarterback, but other people too, when they come from college, their rookie season, I said, what's the biggest difference between college ball and pro ball? And I think the unanimous answer is speed. That is the number one thing that catches their attention immediately. Is that still true?
I think the speed helped me because I played a little too fast. So when I was playing with other people who were really fast, I think it just sort of clicked for me. That wouldn't be my answer. My answer would be the hardest thing especially for a young quarterback, is understanding blitz protection and then seeing it in real time. And like, really, that's what Mac Jones was so amazing at his rookie year. His rookie year, he was the best rookie quarterback in all of football. All his entire class, he was the best guy. He was seeing it. He was directing traffic. He was knowing where he was hot. He was changing the mic. He was doing all the things that, honestly, is hard for veteran quarterbacks. He made it look easy. And so I think that's why everyone was so surprised when he took a step back in year 2 and now in year 3. But sometimes that can be like I think as a coaching staff, you can understand like, oh, this guy's smart. He can handle it. Yeah, he can handle it. But is he going out and cutting it loose and playing free? That's the fine line. And like I said, I even saw that with great quarterbacks. Like I think Brett Favre was at his best when he didn't really know what nickel meant, nickel defense. Yeah. He was just a kid out there doing like he'd done his whole life, just cutting it loose. Like, oh, you're over there. I'm whatever. And once he started learning so much about X's and O's, it was like he was aware, he was thinking about it, like a little bit of paralysis by analysis. And, if it's true for Brett, it's true for everybody probably, and maybe Mac as well.
Could you tell Andy Reid was going places when you had him in Green Bay?
Yeah, he was incredible. We sort of made a joke, like Brett. I didn't make a joke. I didn't talk. I was a rookie, but like Brett Favre would make a joke, and Doug Peterson was the backup. Because Andy Reid had been the tight ends coach for just a couple of years, and then he was the quarterbacks coach. And before he was the tight ends coach, I think he was like the O-line coach at Missouri. And so he would have a coaching point, and his coaching points were all like super simple, like easy to understand, but like very simple. And it worked for me. And I think it worked for Brett. It's kind of like taking a golf lesson. You get like this golf instructor that tells you like a gazillion things to think about. You're like, you're actually making me feel like I'm worse. Some quarterback coaches do that. But Andy would say like simple things. He'd be like, hey, I know TV commentators will say stand tall in the pocket. That's a lie. Stay low. Stay low. He just always say that, stay low. And that'll fix a lot of things. Stay low. And like, I would be like, wow, that's amazing. I'm going to write that down. And Brett would be like, Andy, you're the best tight ends coach I've ever had. Kind of like, that wasn't like a profound statement. So it was like, they would always kind of bust his chops. But no, he was special. He was never the coordinator. He was just the quarterback's coach. And for a guy that had never called plays, never been the coordinator, the Philadelphia Eagles, Jeffrey Lurie, hired him to be their head coach. And literally no one from the staff in Green Bay even went with him. Mike Holmgren left that year to go to Seattle. Pretty much everyone went with Mike. Some people stayed in Green Bay. Andy offered everyone to go with him in Philly. And, people were like, Andy, we believe in you, but might just stay here in Green Bay or might just go with Mike Holmgren. But Andy went, and I think Doug Peterson was the only person that went with him. And he went as a player to kind of, warm the seat for Donovan McNabb. But I think everyone in the building had a lot of respect for Andy and just thought, I don't know, that's a big mountain to climb, but good luck to you. Hope you do well. And he's obviously hit it out of the park.
When you got traded to Seattle, was Holmgren already there?
Yeah, Mike Holmgren was there, but we didn't have this like amazing relationship. Like we really, really knew each other. Like I was a rookie on the practice squad my rookie year when he was the head coach coaching Brett Favre. Like I was sort of, I joke, but I'm serious. I was allowed to be in the room while he was coaching Brett. And so like, a couple of years later, he trades for me and now all of a sudden I'm his starting quarterback. Like I felt like I knew him, but I'm not sure if he knew me. And then it took a little bit for us to kind of, I don't know, understand each other and for me to play, good enough to the standard that he wanted. But I was, he's an amazing coach and I was really lucky to have him as my coach.
I'm going to go back to Green Bay. What month was it when you said, oh my God, winter's here for good? It's not going away.
I was, you know what? All those guys, that entire Green Bay coaching staff, they were all from California. So like there was and Brett Favre's from Mississippi. So like there was this image that we were like good at the cold weather. We love the cold weather. Never. Like we would practice they had this beautiful indoor, the Don Hudson Center, this beautiful indoor facility. Literally, if it was below 55 degrees, we would be practicing inside. Like it was just the other teams that would come into Lambeau, they would just get psyched out. They'd be like, oh, these Packer fans, these Packer players, we were freezing. Like at halftime, we were huddled up in the sauna, like shivering, going over like a call sheet. We'd be like, all right, what do you want to run in the second half? Like, I can't even feel my fingers. I can't feel my face. And like, then we would run out in the third quarter, be like, yeah, no sleeves. Like, yeah, we're good. We're not cold, but we were freezing, honestly.
I didn't go to Seattle where you got to deal with the rain all the time, right?
Yeah. You know what, though? Like, I remember my senior year at Xaverian, and I feel like it was raining or snowing or sleeting or muddy every game I played in. And then I go to BC, and literally I felt like it was windy or cold or rainy or like just terrible weather, monsoon, like my whole time at BC. And I can literally remember like praying to God, being like, why is it always bad weather for me? Like, why? And then 3 years in Green Bay, like tough conditions, Seattle, like you said, tough conditions. And like, honestly, it didn't even like faze me. Never even really thought about it. So I'm sort of thankful for the bad weather that I had growing up.
Oh, look who's back. He took a little break and now Lobel, you can have all the questions for the next 10 minutes. How's that, all right?
Yeah, well, what I was able to hear sounded like a great show, but I'm sorry I missed it. And well, I may ask the same questions you asked when I was taking a nap.
I'll give a different answer.
All right, that's good, man. I like that. So who was the smartest athlete in your family and who was the best athlete in your family? Did you ask that one, Lynchy?
No,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's that one.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've got an athletic family. No,
yes, I know.
No doubt about that. A dream come true. I've got 3 kids. I'll focus on my kids. I've got 3 kids. My 2 girls play lacrosse at Boston College. Boston College has a great lacrosse program. My son, Henry, was committed to play lacrosse in college. He was going to go to Maryland and then, had a good year in football at Xaverian and got recruited for football, recently committed to Michigan State. We'll see how that goes. They just fired their head coach. So a little bit up in the air right now. But the story that I sort of love to tell is like we were all driving somewhere in the car, and I get this call from the athletic director at Boston College to let me know on Bluetooth, hey, congratulations, we're inducting you into the Boston College Hall of Fame. And like, wow, it's this great moment. My wife's crying, happy for me. I'm like, oh, wow, that's special. And we hang up the phone, and my oldest daughter's like, congratulations, Dad. My son's like, congratulations, Dad. And my middle daughter, she goes, you got in 16 years after Mom did. So my wife was a field hockey player at BC, and a really good player. I didn't have this amazing college career. She did. And, she deserves a lot of good credit for our kids.
That's my fire alarm going off here.
Nice.
It's been going off all morning. This was a doomed morning for me. Elon, you just shut down my audio after I asked these. I have to wait till they shut it off. So, the life I'm leading right now.
This is like playing tough in the pocket. You got the blitz
No,
coming. You got to
seriously,
stay focused.
I got an rush coming on here. Now I got to duck out of the way, and I got to hold on to the ball. And,
hey,
okay,
Bob, there's a saying like we like to say in quarterback rooms: get comfortable being uncomfortable. Get comfortable in uncomfortable situations. So this is you. You got tough Wi-Fi. You got fire alarms. Let's see what kind of questions you can come with.
Right. Know what you don't know. Actually, there's a lot to that. Oh yeah. Okay. You were talking about your coach Andy Reid, and I don't know if you brought up Pete Carroll as we were talking here. And well, go ahead. Now that you're shaking your head, you must have had a great deal of respect for Pete.
Well, we didn't talk about Pete, but it's kind of funny because like when Pete got to Seattle, the first thing that he did is he came in. He said, "Hey, I was a terrible football coach. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea who I was. I just was out there kind of coaching." And he talked about his, when he was in the NFL, he was with the Jets, the Patriots, and he got fired, I think, from the Patriots. And he was out of football for a year. And he had to figure out who he was as a coach, what his identity was going to be, what the culture of his team was going to be, how they were going to talk, what the DNA of the program was going to be, what his formula for winning was really going to be. And he was like, he read this book by John Wooden. A lot of coaches get inspiration from John Wooden. And he decided that he came up with a formula in his head about what his team was going to be all about. And then he gets the job at USC, and they weren't a great program, but he turned them into an amazing program. And then with this new formula, this new identity of who he was going to be as a coach and what they were going to be about, he was like, we went 53-0. 53-0 when we do basically what I'm saying, I now know, I now believe in, who I now am. And it was great. Like that, my last year in Seattle was his first year in Seattle, and he came in, and we had a lot of success there. Like we had won, I think, 5 in a row division championships or something like that. And he comes in, he's like, "Forget it. The new formula is this." And as a college coach coming here, so it was, some guys trusted him, some guys didn't. But he was great. He was great. And I think the second version of Pete Carroll as a head coach was really, really special. Really special.
So I take it that he had to find some humility before he was able to find himself.
And like I said, like the first thing he did is say, "Hey, I was a terrible coach. I didn't know what I was doing."
Do you think Belichick could ever do that?
I think he already did in a way, right? Like, I mean, he failed in Cleveland, and I'm sure he, like all people, you sort of look in and say, "Okay, here's what I'm never going to do again." And then to me, he's the most successful coach, in NFL history. So like maybe he doesn't share his feelings or thoughts about it, but no, I think he's done the exact same thing in a way. It's not like he was that unsuccessful in Cleveland. I think Cleveland just sort of made a mistake, but I'm sure he would tell you that made him a better coach.
Well, he got involved in that quarterback controversy with Testaverde and Kosar.
Yeah, but then think about it. He was the guy making the decision. Are you going to sit Drew Bledsoe, the number 1 pick, the first pick overall, for pick 199? It takes courage to do that. You see a lot of these head coaches, like when they're making a decision, it almost feels like they're hopping on Twitter and seeing like, oh, what's everyone saying? Well, maybe I'll do this, or maybe I'll do that. Or they're bad at the podium. I think Bill Belichick, he gets a lot of heat for it. I think he's amazing at the podium. His team doesn't have the drama that other teams have. But going back, I think that's one of the most courageous and like literally one of the best decisions. No knock on Drew Bledsoe. I love Drew. But like that was one of the most successful decisions at the quarterback position that's been made. And I remember it was 0-1. It was like, wait, what? Really? Like I'm playing out in Seattle. We had a lot of Washington State Cougars on our team or just in our building. And like to them, it was like, what? You're sitting Drew Bledsoe? This is Drew Bledsoe. So I think it was a courageous decision. And again, like I think you learn more from your failures than your successes sometimes. I'm sure.
There's no doubt about that. You do, and you do remember your failures much longer than you remember your successes. Why is that? I don't know. It's so interesting. Neely said the same thing. You always, you remember the things that you failed at much more often than you do the things that you were successful at.
Well, especially if you're like sort of like maniacally obsessed with being great, You know, like, you know, you guys mentioned I'm coaching at Zavarian. And, you know, we had a good game. We had a good game this last game. You know, we won by 11. We should have won by 35, like literally. And I just wrote this up on the board to these guys. And a coach of mine used to say it all the time. It's like, hey, we were good. Okay, we were good. Friday, we were good. But good is the enemy of great. Like, if you want to be great, like, you can't be satisfied being good. And so, like, you know, we had a true freshman quarterback start. He had 3 touchdowns. He played awesome. I'm like so happy for him. He's going to have a great high school career. But literally, it's my job as his quarterback coach to be like, you could have had 5. You could have had 5. Now, the truth is, I'll tell you guys, like, we would have had 5 if the guys around him did better. But either way, like, the standard that you're shooting for is to be great. So that's probably why I think sometimes people focus on the tough, you know, the mistakes or the missed opportunities.
Well, it seems to be human nature. I don't know if you, look, I just want to go back to this Belichick thing. And you know the argument, and I'm not going to draw you in between a Brady-Belichick comparison, because you know that argument. You know what's being argued on either side of the ball on that one. And but you also know that Bill's record without Tom is under 500. I mean, we know. So let's talk about that.
Okay, I feel strongly about this.
I know you do, and that's why I'm asking you.
So a couple things. My first statement about these two guys, if these two guys had never paired up, there's no guarantee that either one of them's even a Hall of Famer. But paired up, this is the best duo, I think, in all of sports, any sport, anytime. Coach, quarterback, like these two guys together accomplish things that are absolutely mind-blowing in football. So to me, those two together, the greatest of all time, that is, I firmly believe that. Without each other, you know, who knows? But they weren't without each other. They were together. I hear people say this when Tom Brady went and won the Super Bowl with Tampa. They're like, oh, he did it without Belichick. Bull crap. He did not do it without Belichick. Okay. When I left Seattle, I was there 10 years with Mike Holmgren and a year when I get to watch him coach Brett Favre. I went to Tennessee my very next year, had the best year of my career statistically. At the end of my career, I was 40 years old, starting for the Indianapolis Colts. I promise you, when I was in Tennessee and when I was in Indy, I was taking all the coaching points that those coaches were giving me, but I can promise you, time after time, play after play, I would say to myself, what would Mike Holmgren say right now? Or if I had to address the team, what would Mike Holmgren say right now? What would Mike Holmgren say? What would Mike Holmgren say? He had such an influence on any success I had after that. I promise you, when Tom Brady had success in Tampa, sure, it was Bruce Arians and Clyde Christensen and a lot of these guys, but a lot of it is who trained him, who made him. Like, you don't go to Harvard Business School and then have success in business and then all of a sudden, like, well, Harvard had nothing to do with that. No, that's who trained you, you know? And so, there was a Monday night game, and I'm sitting there and I'm watching with Teddy Bruschi, and you can hear the audio, and Tom Brady in Tampa, he goes, Gronk, Bruschi, okay? Bruschi, which is like, I wonder what that is. They go all out blitz. It was a tight end delay. TED, Teddy, Bruschi. That was their code name. I immediately called my friends on Tampa. I'm like, whoa, great play on the Bruschi thing. Like, first time we ever heard of it, okay? They brought that from New England, never in a meeting. He just saw it. That was from Bill and all the people here. So I don't know. Like, I don't think you can separate the two. I really don't. I don't think it's that clear or clean of a break. I think Bill gets a lot of the credit for the quarterback that Brady became. And like I said, it's sort of a match made in heaven.
Well, what a great answer to the right, it made more sense than most of the answers that I've heard, because people usually line up on one side or the other, but you don't have to, obviously.
Well, the controversial thing that I would say is I don't know if people think I'm nuts, but like, apart from each other, maybe neither one's even a Hall of Famer. Like, maybe, like, that's the part that you will never know. But again, like, I would bow up on this, and you guys are more sports experts than me, but like, you tell me of a better duo. You tell me of a better duo. I don't know.
Well,
any more questions, Bob, before you go to the first break? Should we?
No, I have two. Yeah, of course I've saved up. I had plenty of time to do my save up during the show, but You want me to do the first break? Because Matt, we have a question to ask you right after this
Good
one.
question, Matt. You're going to like this one.
Okay.
Yeah, this will be good. So this is all about Campers Oktoberfest. It's going on right now through October 31st at Cold Springs RV in Ware, New Hampshire. So take advantage of this end of the season savings. End of the season savings. You can also get a great deal on new 2024 models that are now in stock. So check out the latest in pop-ups and travel trailers and fifth wheelers and motorhomes and all the rest. Winter storage for your RV is available. So protect your RV over the winter with winterizing, and the Pro RV Cold Springs Service Center is there for your taking. So get to Camp Oktoberfest at Cold Springs RV in Ware, New Hampshire, and tell them Lobel and Mike Lynch sent you, and then learn more at coldspringsrv.com, which is available to you right now on your computer. Okay, Matt, Mike's got the question of the day for you.
All right. So remember John Madden wouldn't fly. He had the Madden Cruiser.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get Cold Springs RV to build a Lobel Cruiser that we can drive around it.
I like it.
And we thought it would be a good
Works
idea.
better than my computer, by the way.
We thought it would be a good idea to give the Lobel Cruiser to our guests for 1 week, and you have to drive cross country. But the problem is you have to bring somebody with you riding shotgun. Now it can be someone alive, someone dead, someone from the present, someone from the past, and you got to ride 3,000 miles with this person. Supposedly have a stimulating conversation. Who would you have riding shotgun with you, Matthew?
Wow, this is a good question. I'd be happy with so many people. I mean, for sure, like I feel like my wife or like a good tag team, you know, if we ever did like the Amazing Race or something, I think we'd be good. But you know who's like, I think a pretty interesting guy is Rob Ninkovich. He's actually coaching at Zavarian with me right now, but he's on defense. I'm on offense. So we're kind of like, you know, we're like two ships passing in the night. But like every time I see him, he's in like a new car that he probably built with his own hands. He's got his hand in everything. I just feel like he's got so much going on. And like I follow him on Instagram. I'm like, dude, where are you today? He's like, oh, I'm in New Hampshire today. I'm in Maine. I'm in Florida. I'm like, you know, so he might be my choice right now. Plus he can tell like a good long story, you know, like for a good, for a good ride. I'll go with Nick. Like I didn't know, like, so he's working with our long snapper. Our long snapper is going to Penn State. He's a really good player. And he starts showing him like some long snapping tricks and like what shoulder pads to wear, what knee braces to wear, like all these like, you know, like Steve Diassi, like high level things. And I was like, hey, don't screw him up, man. He's good. He's going to Penn State to snap. And he's like, no, I got my start in the NFL as a snapper. I wasn't even a defensive player. I'm like, what? And he tells this whole story. We're like, oh my gosh, that's wild. So yeah, I think that's a safe bet. If it breaks down, I kind of trust him. Like he builds cars. He could probably, fix the thing.
Yeah, you wouldn't be sitting on the side of the road like this if it break down.
Well, it's not even the breakdown because I've rented Winnebagos and stuff like that. It's kind of just like propane, you like getting rid of like the bathroom stuff. Like there's like some stuff, you know.
Yeah, of course, you want somebody handy.
He wants some handy, you know. Plus, if you're parked at like a KOA, it doesn't seem like a bad guy to have with you.
No, that's a really great answer. All right, well, you did such a great job on ESPN. What was that experience like for you? And
I mean, it was a dream come true. Like I grew up. Well, first of all, I didn't have cable growing up, but like once I got cable, like we would just kind of leave our TV on ESPN for a good part of the day. You know, like we were just all about sports all the time. And I got the chance to be on the show that was hosted by Chris Berman. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like I grew up watching Chris Berman. I mean, I grew up watching you guys.
No. We knew that was coming. So that's all right. That's all right. No apologies necessary.
But I remember our first meeting. So it was myself, Randy Moss, and Charles Woodson. We were like the new people on the show with Chris Mortensen, Adam Schefter, and Chris Berman. And Chris Berman, we have this big meeting, and Chris Berman says to us, hey guys, our chemistry, we'll figure it out, once we get to know each other a little bit. And Randy Moss goes, boom, we've been knowing you our whole lives, kind of like, and it was true. Like, we knew what he was going to say next. Like, we knew him. We knew all his little, like, inside joke. Like, we knew it all. Like, he didn't know us, but we felt like we knew him. So no, that was a dream come true. It was 7 years. I got to work with my brother there. Got to do a lot of different cool things, and I'm not there this year, which felt a little weird for the, when the NFL season started. But I honestly cannot imagine a better situation than getting to coach my son at Xaverian, my high school, with the head coach. He was coaching there when I was there. My dad is the tight ends coach. It's like it's really, really cool. So I'll miss a little bit of the grind on the NFL football stuff this year, but truthfully, I don't think I really will.
I get it, but I know ESPN, a very highly publicized contract issues with across the board. I mean, Lynchy and I both know what contract issues are all about, and
yeah. Well, I'll say this about
a fun business. It's
yeah. Well, I'll say this about the situation for me though personally. So I was part of the layoffs or whatever at the end of the summer, and this is kind of the decision that I would not have had the courage to make on my own. Like I said to my wife, I said, I don't think I would have had the courage to just quit my job and say, no, you know what? I'm going to coach high school football for my son's senior year. I don't think I would have, I probably would have wussed out on that. But the decision was made for me. And for real, it's such a blessing. It's really cool.
Would you have missed some of his games if you were still on ESPN?
So I did it last year, but I was never really there on a Monday. I was doing different things. I was never there on a Monday. I wasn't there on Sundays, kind of game planning. I wasn't there on Saturdays. So it was like a little bit, I was there, but I wasn't able to be like all the way in like I am right now. So could I have done it? Yeah, I could have done it, but it's okay. I'm like having so much fun that it's okay.
You're dealing with what life gave you.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah.
But you're the same guy. I can see it so clearly now. You're the same guy that called the coin toss in the overtime and said, when we're going to score.
Heck yeah.
The board and I can see that guy saying, I can see you saying that.
I mean, that's sort of like a really misunderstood thing. Like, let's say that. First of all, I don't regret it for a second. Like, not even for a second. And there's a lot that goes into it. Like, I had just come from the Packers. The guy that I was talking smack to was like one of my very, very best friends. He was, their kicker. I was his holder. I was really kind of talking smack to him. But with that, like I had mentioned, I had seen on the sidelines as a Packer player, I had seen so many teams go into Lambeau and get like psyched out. Like, oh my gosh, the cold weather. Oh my gosh, Brett Favre, Reggie White, looking at the names, Ray Nitschke, Bart Starr, Vince Lombardi, like whatever. And so we had played the Packers earlier that year. We lost. We kind of went in that same way. I went in with like no emotion, no energy. Everyone's like, calm down. You're playing your friends. Don't get too excitable. And I was like, all right, I'll try that. I played okay. We lost. It was just like we didn't do anything special. So we kind of went in that time in the wild card. We were just happy to be in the wild card. And I was like, man, screw that. Okay. We're going to go out here and we're going to like cut it loose like I did in my front yard or in the street in my hometown or at Xaverian or whatever. We're just going to go have fun, cut it loose, talk smack to your buddies and have fun. And that's really what happened. And, so like we don't win the game. That's life. That's sports. We lose on the last play of the game that year. And then the next year we lost on the last play of the game in the wild card round again. But again, I think like I almost said Mr. Lobel. That's how I referred to you when I was a child. But when like we talked about failures, how we lost in 03 and 04 in the playoffs on the last play of the game, 100%, I believe this, propelled us to the success that we had in 05. We were the 1 seed, earned the bye, should have won the Super Bowl, didn't get it done that day against the Steelers. But like those failures kind of made me who I am, made us who we were as a team. And again, like I think that's one of the lessons I learned from Brett Favre. This is a job, but you're at your best when you don't feel like it's a job. Like when you feel like you're having fun, you feel like you did when you were a kid, like cutting it loose, competing, talking a little smack to your opponent, especially if they're your friends.
Well, I have some pictures. I don't know if Keelan can hear us or if they're even loaded, but I found some great pictures last night when I was looking through some things. And They were pretty good. If they don't have them loaded, I can pull them up right here. But one of them was in Miami before you had your Monday night game. Patriots were playing the Dolphins, and I was talking to you, but you were standing there with Tom Brady, Bob Greasy, you, and Charles Woodson. And I was trying to count out the number of Super Bowls that you were in altogether. Brady, like I want to say 9 or 10.
That's crazy.
Greasy was in, he won 2 and lost 1. Woodson, and then yourself. So there had to have been like a dozen or more Super Bowls between that quartet right there. That was really kind of something.
Well, I mean, honestly, like there's some things like that you almost don't realize that it's a big deal. Like if that makes any sense. And like I just remember like growing up. Like when I was growing up, my dad played in the NFL, and like I didn't know it was a big deal that like Mark Bavaro would sleep over our house sometimes. Like I didn't know it was a big deal that like I'm sitting on an airplane with like Marcus Allen, coming back from the Super Bowl. Like I didn't know it was a big deal that like Lawrence Taylor gave me his gloves after practice. Yeah. There you go.
Oh, there it is right there. Yeah. There's Greasy with the hat. You with your back to us. Woodson on the right and Tom Brady on the left.
And the conversation right there was probably about Brian Greasy, who's now the quarterback's coach for the 49ers, doing a great job. Brian Greasy was that eight. So he played in Michigan, probably with Tom, played with Charles Woodson, class of 98, got drafted the same draft class as me. And that draft class was picked. 1 was Peyton Manning, 2 was Ryan Leaf, 3 was Charlie Batch, but the next guy picked was Brian Greasy. And then I was picked later in the 6th round in that. But like, there's like all these little webs of camaraderie, whether it be like where you played college, what draft class you were, all that kind of stuff. And so you're mentioning it was Bob Greasy, but like for real, in my head, that's just Brian Greasy's dad.
Yeah.
It's just like, in a funny way.
Keelan, you get some other pictures there you want to throw up? Because there's a couple here that this one right there, getting the tough questions from a hard-hitting reporter right there.
Well, I remember that night, and I think the Patriots were like 0 for 11 on 3rd down.
Yeah.
And they got spanked by a bad Dolphins team.
They did.
And I was really critical of the Patriots because one of the things that had happened was the Patriots were playing Monday Night Football, and all the talk was that they were looking ahead to the next opponent. And they were already game planning for the next opponent before they had played this opponent. And I just remember sort of saying something like, hey, this is firmly what I believe. You got to go one game at a time in the NFL as a player. It's not just a cliche. It's a real thing. And I remember getting like my phone blows up like, oh, you better not criticize the Patriots like that. Your house isn't going to be there when you get home or whatever. I was like, what are we talking about? Really? I
think that was the game Gronkowski was suspended, right? Because he did something in Buffalo the week before. I don't think Gronk played that game.
Oh, well, maybe that was why they played so poorly. That would do it. I mean, it's a big deal.
We got one other picture right here we want to show you. This is you like this because you've got hair, Matthew.
Yeah. Well, I'm the one in the pink bathing suit, in case anybody didn't know. Yeah. I know where that picture is. That is at Steve Nelson, Patriot linebacker Steve Nelson's house.
Yeah.
He was our next door neighbor growing up. And what's hilarious to me about, and my brother in the background there, my youngest brother, what's hilarious to me about this photo, though, is the girl on the far left, Caitlin Nelson, married my college roommate and now lives in that house. Like my college roommate bought that house, then lives next to my mom and dad now. So, wow. Oh yeah, a lot of good memories there. Great barbecues there at the Nelson household.
Yeah, we had a good one that day. And the one, the blonde, that's my daughter Katie. She went to BC. She lives in Westwood. Okay. And the dark-haired one right there, that's Molly. She went to BC. And all 3 of my girls went to BC. So we had a lot of Boston College in that picture right there.
That's pretty good. Well, fun fact about this hot tub, this Steve Nelson's hot tub, it's in the exact shape of a football. So you can't tell, but that's back then I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I'm like, wow, this guy's sick. He's got a hot tub like a football. It's pretty cool. That's great. Cool. That's
great. But your folks are still in the same house, huh?
My parents are still in the same house, and they're doing great. My dad had knee replacement surgery this year, So he wasn't going to coach. He coached last year. He coached tight ends at Zavarian, and he wasn't going to coach this year. And our head coach was like, "Hey, we'll get you a golf cart." So he's like one. He thinks he's like Bear Bryant or something. Like he's driving around in the golf cart, coaching with his bum knee. But he's doing really well.
Is he still with Reebok?
No, he kind of got laid off at some point, kind of like I did. He was at Reebok for 22 years. It was Reebok, turned Adidas, but like that's another one. Like I didn't know it was not normal. When he was at Reebok growing up, I would work at Reebok in the summers. It was like my summer job. And my job was to send the athletes their shoes. So I would send like Emmitt Smith and Shaquille O'Neal and Roger Clemens and Boomer Esiason. Like I would send them all their cleats or basketball shoes or whatever. And I had tons of shoes. So like I'd wear there. Like I was wearing Emmitt Smith's shoes that he was wearing in the Super Bowl. Like I was wearing those at the Zavarian Super Bowl at BU against Brockton. Like I just thought that was like kind of normal. Like I was completely oblivious that it was like a big deal. Like in fact, I think the shoes I wore were Boomer Esiason like D Brown pumps. Like they were like white and orange and black, and Zavarian's like blue and yellow. And I just like, oh yeah, these are just the Boomer Esiason. Like I was such a clueless kid. I had no idea, but my baseball cleats were Roger Clemens cleats. Like it was just sort of funny, but looking back now, of all these like really cool experiences that I thought were sort of like normal,
Yeah, every kid does this.
I had no idea.
Now, is your mother the only one that calls you Matthew?
So everyone in my family would call me Matthew. Like I say Matt, my name's Matt Hasselbeck. Like people call me Matt, but like if someone calls me Matthew, like I know you knew me before I got to BC. So I got to BC, they changed it in the media guide, and like sort of I just went with it, whatever. But no, everyone calls me Matthew. And it's I think people like think I care. I don't care. But my mom cares. Yeah. Like I remember my rookie year, Mike Holmgren had done an interview and called me Matt. And after like the first game, there's like a player coach area after the game. I like out of the corner of my eye, see my mom like walking over to Mike Holmgren. It'd be like walking over to Bill Belichick. And I'm like, no, what are you going to say do not say anything to him. And she kind of gives him like this like poke, like kind of poking him like, hey, my son's name is Matthew, not Matt. I was like, I'm definitely getting cut. Definitely. But no, Coach Holmgren and my mom had like a nice little relationship after that. But that's sort of that's the lowdown on that one.
Do you think it was a big help for you to have a dad who played so long in the National Football League that sort of, gave you the appetite and the want to give this thing a shot?
No doubt. And the funny thing about it is my parents didn't let us play football growing up. Like it was like sort of like, no, play other things, play football, play baseball, play basketball, play something else, play golf. But we ended up playing everything. And I feel like football kind of chose me a little bit. But even when I wasn't around my dad, I was working as a ball boy for the Patriots. I was around football. And I think I just kind of learned some of the things that matter that maybe people don't know matter. Like I remember working for the Patriots as a ball boy. George Luongo was the equipment guy. And we would be like basically just doing everybody's laundry. And I just remember in the locker room, like there were guys that would just like throw their stuff on the ground and like expect us to like pick it up, their jocks, their socks, whatever. And then there were other people that would like tie up their laundry bin, put it in, like do what they're supposed to do, like push their seat in, like put their shoulder, just do things right. Or even just at practice. Like I would hear these coaches say like, hey, there's no walking on the battlefield or something like that. Like basically no walking on the field. Like I don't care how fast you jog, but you need to be jogging. Don't sit on your helmet. Like just like some of those things. Seeing a coach rip a player, but like, well, I know that guy's a good player. So like if he's ripping him, it probably just means he cares about him. So just like all these little things that I think you just pick up being around it. Help me to be a better teammate, help me to be a little bit more coachable, help me to sort of understand some of the non-negotiables. Like taking if you, let's just say you throw an interception, it's clearly not your fault. The coach yells at you. You're like, yes, sir. Got it. My bad. The film will vindicate you. They'll find out what really happened, but I get to see that modeled by, Steve Grogan, all the way down to, whoever, like I remember being there with Scott Zolak, Hugh Millen, Tommy Hodson in a tough 3-13 with Dick McPherson as the head coach. But through those tough times, you saw people fall on the sword or take a bullet for somebody. It was leadership. It was like, wow, that's a great teammate, or that's a coach I respect. So I know that, I was oblivious to some of the other stuff. I was well aware of the fact that these are special opportunities, getting to see, up close and personal, how to do things and also how not to do things.
All right, so the Patriots have the Bills and the Dolphins next up on their schedule. That's quite a daunting task. When are they going to win another football game?
This week. Let's go. Listen, honestly, though, when you play a great team, sometimes that's sort of the jump start that you need as an offense, because you can't get into this oh, let's just not screw it up mode. You saw Zach Wilson and the Jets basically just pull this off.
Yeah.
It's wait, they did what? Yeah, you know what? Because, I use this analogy a lot with quarterbacks. You're not going to be successful as a quarterback using the analogy of driving a car. It's, driving you're in driver's ed 10-2, afraid to make a mistake. You're actually probably putting yourself in more danger. If you drive a little bit aggressive, I'm in control. I'm dictating where this car goes. I'm merging or I'm not. You're in charge. Playing quarterback that way, I think, I don't know. I think it's the best way to go. So you're playing a prolific offense with Miami, a dangerous offense with Buffalo. That just might be what you need to just say, hey, the heck with it. We got to try to score 40.
Yeah, the Giants almost did it the other night.
Yeah. They should have. They really should have done it.
What? We have the Manning cast. Are we ever going to have a Hass cast and bring your dad, bring Nathaniel, bring Timmy in and yourself, the four of you?
I mean, Tim would love it because Tim lives in Nashville, Tennessee right now, and he thinks it's the greatest place in the world. And so he's like, dude, come to Nashville. We'll do something in Nashville together. Just come to Nashville. This place is awesome. And it is. We lived there for a couple of years when I played for the Tennessee Titans. It's a lot of fun, special place. But no, I think it is cool. In media right now, there's different opportunity. My oldest daughter is at Boston College, and on her Instagram page, she does these little and she's doing a podcast for BC football, and on her Instagram, she'll do these I don't know, foreshadow the games coming up or whatever. And it's just so cool. I just feel I don't need to be I don't need to do a deep dive on the, the BC Florida State game to have a feeling of here are the three things I got to work for or look for, all because I get to watch a little 30-second clip that she did. I think it's a fun thing. So she's more tech savvy than me, but if I ever get tech savvy enough, kind of Lobie here, then we'll be rolling and we'll do, we'll be able to do all kinds of different.
That is so cool. That is really, I thought you were a really good guy coming across.
It did. You know how hard it was for me not to call you Mr. Lobel right there?
Yeah, that was right, Lobie. That was the compliment part. Then you had to really take the shot. But that's okay. Now that I get a chance to ask a quick question before the thing goes down again, was there one person, Matt, as being the oldest child in a very athletic family, Matthew, was there one person that you always thought of I really wanted him to be proud of me at this moment? If I'm standing in Seattle and they're putting my number up on the Ring of Hall of Fame as you were, was there? I'm not saying it took place at that moment, but was it Holmgren? Was it your dad? Was it, was there one guy I really wanted to be proud of me at this moment?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question.
It's the only one I get to ask, so that's all right.
The answer always would have been my dad, right? That always would have been the answer. And I could choose a lot of people that meant a lot to my career.
Yes.
I chose Boston College because of Tom Coughlin. Still have a tremendous amount of respect.
Great guy.
Still get nervous around him for some.
He was the best. He was awesome.
Yeah. But I think Mike Holmgren really did remind me a lot of my dad. I mean, my dad is almost 6'8". Mike Holmgren, he's 6'6", 6'7". He's just a big person, a big personality. And he was hard. He was hard on me. My dad was hard on me. He didn't make it easy. I eventually did play organized football. I was a tight end till I got to Zavarian. My dad was my coach. I remember missing a block one time and he was like, you got to make that block. And I was like, I don't think I can make that block. And that was not an acceptable answer, really, And so I don't know. Mike Holmgren had a lot to do with it, but I would also say this: my quarterbacks coach in Seattle for most of my time there was Jim Zorn, the quarterback that had been there really at the start of the franchise. Left-handed, a little bit like some people might say quirky. He had a little like Mr. Miyagi coaching style to him. He was awesome for me, and I remember early in my career feeling like, how do I do all of this? Like, how am I going to be the franchise quarterback for this team? And I just kind of remember feeling like, and Trent Dilfer was my backup at the time. He had said this to me. He's like, hey, you don't need to do all of it. Okay. You just need to do what Jim Zorn tells you to do. And that was sort of like the mindset that I took. When I was growing up here, we used to go candlepin bowling all the time. Right. And like the trick for me in candlepin bowling was not to look at the pins. It was to look at those like little arrows, like that are kind of like right in front of you. And like, that was kind of like, if I just do this right, then that sort of takes care of itself. And like Jim Zorn had this saying one time in our quarterback room. He was like, hey, just play every play right. Do the right thing on every play, and the score will take care of itself. And I just kind of like, between Trent and Mike Holmgren and Jim Zorn, it was kind of like, hey, I don't have to worry about all that. I'm just going to do what Jim Zorn tells me to do on every play. At the end of the day, we probably won. And even if we didn't win, like I can only control what I can control. Like I can't control if our defense stops the ball or if stops the run or gets a turnover. Like I can control how I play every play. So I would give it to Mike in that sense to answer your question. But how did I accomplish that? I accomplished that on sort of like, looking at the arrows right in front of me, so to speak.
It's good. Sure good. See, Dad, I did it. See, Dad, I did what you thought I could do.
Well, I remember when my dad was my Pop Warner coach too, though. And we were driving home from a game one time. And I went up to catch a pass and I dropped the ball. I was like kind of afraid to get hit or whatever. And like, I thought he was going to rip me for like dropping the pass. Like I remember Bill Parcells once when my dad was with the Giants. Bill Parcells was ripping my dad for dropping a ball at practice one time in training camp. And so I was like, oh, here it comes. I'm going to get the Bill Parcells treatment in the station wagon on the ride home. And sure enough, he says, I'm like, oh, I could have had that. I could have had that catch. And he said, oh yeah, that would have been an amazing catch. And I remember being like, what? Like, you're not going to yell? You're going to say that? It actually made me feel worse. I was like, it would have been an amazing catch. And it was like, I don't care what happens next time. I don't care who's going to hit me. I don't care if I'm getting the wind knocked out of it. Like, I'm going to hold on to that football. I'm going to make that catch. And, it was like a little bit of that too. Like, so like Mike Holmgren, same thing, was really hard on me. But at times he would come in and just like flip the script. And there were many times that he did that where it was just like, okay, like that was sort of genius. That worked. That really worked.
Interesting. Good job.
Who was your favorite sportscaster growing up, Matt?
That is really unfair, Lynchy, because
you know what's really funny though about the sport? Like I don't really have a Boston accent, and I would love a Boston accent. I would love a But my parents are from Ohio. I was born in Boulder, Colorado. My parents were married. My dad played at CU. He loves Dion, yes. But anyway, I don't have a Boston accent.
Where in Ohio are they from?
Cincinnati, Ohio.
Cincinnati, okay.
But I used to watch the nightly news, and I would like practice like, hello, I'm Peter Jennings. I'm Tom Brokaw. Like I wanted to talk like the national people because I didn't want a Boston accent. And then like I go off to college and like every girl in the school thinks a Boston accent's like the cutest thing ever. I'm just like, oh yeah, I have a Boston accent, but I did not. Luckily, my wife was willing to look past it. But no, I didn't want it. I just I don't know. It was a weird thing. It was really weird.
Hey, let me get this spot in for our good friend George Gray. If you're thinking about a new vehicle, go where Lobel and Lynchy go. Go see our friend George Gray at George Gray's Lexington Toyota. We've been customers for years because we know George Gray will treat you right. They're a family-owned and operated dealership that we trust, and you can trust as well. go see the big wheel. We call him. He's the great George Gray at Lexington Toyota, 409 Mass Ave in Lexington. He's a big fan of the Patriots, big fan of your dad, and a big fan of yours as well. Well, I'm sure you get to practice, Matthew, right? It's like coming up pretty soon.
I got my scripts done. So I do on Monday and Tuesday, I do our 7-on-7 scripts for the team. And like, there's an art to scripting a practice. You don't want your receivers running a deep route after deep route. You want to mix up the personnel groupings. So it's how I spend a lot of my time. But yeah, we have practice and got a big game up in Malden Catholic this Friday night. Hoping and I do look as a player. I never looked at the weather, like didn't care, didn't matter. As a coach, I'm looking at the weather like religiously, like, all right, what plays are we going to practice? Is it going to rain? Is it not going to rain? Kind of funny, the things that coaches have to worry about.
What about your alma mater? I mean, maybe Lynchy asked you this.
No, I didn't. I left it for you, Bob.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. You were my favorite sportscaster growing up. You seem to be a lot older.
Just the injury again.
Yeah, I know. That's what, you know what?
Convenient, isn't it?
That's good.
Why would you do that?
Mom's got big blue tape on it too. See,
Your alma mater, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on? And I know. Okay, you're at an alumni game. They're asking you the same thing. They're asking each other the same thing. You know.
Yeah. Well, I would just say it was a tough start to the season, right? We lost at home to NIU. We almost lost to Holy Cross. Played Florida State really tough. Had a chance to win that game. I think the team's 3-3 right now. They've got a new starting quarterback who I think the offense is a little different. I think they can turn it around. I really believe in Jeff Hafley, the head coach. I think he's a really good coach. Unfortunately for him, if you count the interims in his time, he's had 5 different athletic directors. He's had 3 different offensive coordinators. It's been a little bit of a revolving door at the O-line coach position. Quarterback thing, his quarterback transferred to Pitt. He's now playing tight end, there's a lot that goes into these things, but no, I do believe that he can get it turned around. And I know people that have been coached by him, Richard Sherman's, Darrell Revis, Aaron Donald, John Lynch was with him with the 49ers. Like those, if you ask those people about Jeff Hafley as a coach, you're going to get glowing responses. It's going to get, it's going to be like me talking about Tom Coughlin or Pete Carroll or, those experiences that I have. So, I'm certainly rooting for them, cheering for them. They got Georgia Tech this weekend. I think they've got a lot of winnable games. And like I said, it's a completely different offense now. Their quarterback, I think, leads the FBS, I think they call it now, leads FBS in touchdown rushing touchdowns right now. So it's a very, very different offense from how they started the year with more of a passing quarterback. So we'll see.
Well, Matthew, you did a nice job today. Thank you.
Appreciate this, guys. Thank you.
How would you know, Lobie? How would you know, Lobie? We were around for any of the show?
Well, I could hear a lot of it, but, a lot of my time was tied up in more technical issues to take.
All right, Matthew, thank you so much. Thanks to everybody. And
thank you, guys.
That all the family. And for you out there, make sure you follow us on UnAnchoredBoston.com.
Appreciate it.